Hello, this is Tom Wiseman with Resource Education, and I'm here for Play and Learn to tell you about tense build. These cards are made to practice English and give you, the teacher, a lot of flexibility, and to give the students a lot of different ways to automate these patterns so that English becomes much more reflexive for them. Now, these come in 3 different levels. We have A1, A2, and B1. And the difference is that at various levels there are different levels of vocabulary, different tenses and time phrases that are included. In each pack you have 3 different types of cards. You have subjects, verbs, and time phrase cards. So you have pictures to make it easier for you, pictures and color differentiation, to choose which cards you want to play with, you want to work with in the lesson. And each different time phrase card, they have various colors that represent different tenses that the students need to use. So as a teacher, I can take these cards and I can say, okay, I'll take 2 of these, 2 of these, I'll take this one, and let's do 2 of those. So I can choose which time phrases and which tenses I want to put together so that my students have that combined practice that you don't necessarily have in a textbook. In a textbook, maybe you'll have present simple, present continuous. But do you have present simple, present continuous, and past simple together? Very, very rarely. This gives the students much more exposure to that sort of thing, that variation. Now, there are dozens of ways to play with these. Dozens of ways to work with these cards in a way that motivates your students. Here are a few. So I can take one verb card. Read poetry. So if I have I read poetry, I have to change it for whatever the time phrase is. So if I have, yes, every morning at breakfast I read poetry. On cold days I read poetry. Last Saturday I read poetry. In a few days I will read poetry. So you have to change the verb according to whatever time card you have. And then after that we make it a competition for the students. So we put the students in groups. We take a verb, let's say read poetry, and then one student puts down one of the time phrase cards, or says it. In 2015, I read poetry. Okay, whoever reacts the most quickly gets the card. Whoever has the most cards at the end wins the game. And this is a way to encourage the students to react and trust what they know. Because they might know in principle, in 2015, okay, so in 2015, that's past simple, V2, read, read, I read poetry. But that thought process is much too slow. They know it. They know the rules. The rules need to be just a way for them to interpret the world, and they have to react quickly to become fluent. These are the sorts of activities that help the students make those rules reflexive. So we start with basic practice, then we do this sort of activity, and then we're more ready for speaking. Now that's one way to play with it. I'll give you one more. And there are a lot more. Play and Learn will send you in the right direction to find those. Check it out. So if I have babies fly home, okay, all right. Babies fly home in a few days. So I have babies will fly home in a few days. Angry robots looked for a new pet in 2015. You can do full sentences. I can have the students do questions. And the entire point here is to make the students react quickly. They have to be able to react quickly. There needs to be some sort of challenge. One way I like to play with these, split the class into 2 teams. Invite one member from each team to the board. Give each one a marker. Whoever writes the sentence the fastest gets a point for the team. The sentence has to be 100% correct, no misspellings, and correct grammar. And that motivates the students to pay attention to what they're doing and really concentrate on it, but at the same time react quickly so that they start to make English a much more reflexive way of communicating. Last point for me on this, It has made a huge difference with my students. That's the reason we're doing this. One student we had this year, who a teacher one of my teachers works with, she was behind in only in writing. She was great at speaking, amazing, which made her go up several levels, but the students in the class she was with were much older. They were much older, they had much more experience writing. It was a more writing intensive course because she was so advanced for her age. So I sat down with her and we went over these cards. And I gave her a task. I said, every night, it'll take 5 minutes. Flip the cards, write 8 sentences. Write 8 sentences. Then she brought those 8 sentences to the school. I checked them, said good job, and she continued that for a few months. And it made a massive difference, a huge difference in her results in the classroom, where we didn't have to move her down a level. She didn't have to take extra lessons that usually she wouldn't be very interested in or her parents wouldn't be very interested in. And she was one of the best students in the class by the end of the year. Because the only thing holding her back was writing. And I could give her a task that allowed her to improve her writing on her own time, just 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day. It's made a huge difference in fluency and confidence for all of my students, from the weakest to even the strongest. It makes the class much more interactive, tense build. I highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. So you can find it at Play and Learn, a great site run by great people. I'm Tom. Thanks for watching.